My name is Chris Price. I'm the Academic Programs Manager for the SUNY Center for Professional Development. I'm also on the planning team for the SUNY Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Discussion Forum. This is a program we started last year in SUNY. We have an advisory board of folks from campuses and also in system. And the simple idea is just provide opportunities for folks throughout SUNY, talk about diversity, equity, inclusion issues. Last year we had several open discussion forums. We do plan on having more of those again this semester and into the spring. Dates have not been determined yet, but we've also had a few topic related discussions as well. And so I'm pleased to say today that one of our actually planning team members, Rachel Sander, put together this session today on higher education for the justice involved. Rachel also put together, with the help of the folks on her panel who she will introduce, a handout with readings and other resources on this topic for you to kind of look over. If you had a chance to do it before today, great. If not, what I'm going to do is actually put in the chat I'm going to put in the chat the link to the group in Workplace, in SUNY Workplace. And if you go there, and if you're not already in there, you'll be able to access that document there with the links to all the readings in that. So we are recording, obviously. I'll also post the recording there, and you should see live captions at the bottom of the screen. You can turn those off if you prefer not to have those. And I'm going to now turn it over to Rachel, and I'll monitor the chat if folks have questions. And take it away, Rachel.
Thanks so much, Chris. I'm really excited to be here. I am really grateful to the other members of the DEI Virtual Forum Planning Group that have welcomed me in and allowed me to put together this event. I am SUNY's Prison Education Director, and I work with the SUNY campuses that currently have college and prison programs across the state. And before I give a little bit more context to what that means, I just want to kind of give a welcome and to our panelists who are all involved and touched by the higher education and prison field in New York State, and experts. So I'm really looking forward to having you all hear from them directly about why this work matters and how they got involved in it. I think that when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's really important to consider justice involved individuals who are all too often silenced, marginalized, and rendered invisible by our society. We also know that our criminal justice system disproportionately impacts people of color, and those are the same individuals who have been underserved and overlooked by higher education institutions. So this work, college and prison, educating people who have had involvement in the justice system, is really a full way to honor, I think, SUNY's mission of trying to provide broad access to quality education to all New Yorkers. And I'm really proud to be part of SUNY's team that works on these issues. Just a note about language, you'll hear that we're using the term justice involved, and that is not necessarily the only term that is appropriate to use when referring to people who have been impacted by the criminal legal system or criminal justice system. We've been hearing this from directly impacted people for a while, that the word inmate or convict or felon is offensive and really strips people of their humanity. I'm including a link in the chat to a letter from Eddie Ellis. It's pretty well known as an open letter that he wrote to formerly incarcerated people, requesting that people honor his personhood by not referring to him as an inmate or felon or convict or any kind of version of that. So just wanted to kind of say that again, in practicing inclusion and equity, we want to honor people's personhood and use the phrase justice involved or another appropriate way to refer to individuals as opposed to something else. So I'm just going to share really quick some quick stats about SUNY's college and prison programs, and then I'm going to turn it over to my talented colleagues who have far more interesting things to say about this work. So quickly, sorry, everyone. What is wrong with me?
I think you just got to go under slideshow, Rachel. Up at the
That's
top
great.
there. There you
There
go.
All right, so SUNY's role in prison education in New York State. SUNY is actually currently the largest provider of prison education in the state. We have 21 prisons that have approximately 700 students enrolled in college degree programs, which is actually half of all incarcerated students in the state are enrolled in a SUNY degree program. We have 13 of our campuses offering courses in those correctional facilities. Again, 10 of them are offering SUNY degrees. This is a number that we actually think will grow in the next couple of years. We have more campuses that are looking to get involved. And, you know, maybe it goes without saying, but SUNY is well positioned to serve currently and formerly incarcerated New Yorkers because we have campuses located everywhere. And there are 50 correctional facilities throughout the state. So we are nearby all the prisons, and we are also nearby all the communities New Yorkers are being released to. And as I just mentioned, you know, we really feel that higher education for the justice involved aligns with our mission on educational equity. So here's a quick listing of our SUNY campuses and where they work, what facilities they work with, or what community partners they work with. This information is also available on our website, but you can see just it's primarily been the community colleges that have been involved in these programs. And we do have Potsdam that just started a program this fall, and SUNY Purchase, who contributes to an existing program run by Marymount Manhattan College. So again, just sort of some level setting. There are 50 prisons in the state. There are 31 facilities with college programs. Again, most of those are SUNYs, but there are private schools that have also been leading this work for a couple decades now. And there's a community of providers of college and prison that have been organized into a New York Consortium for Higher Education in Prison, NYCHEP. And that's a link I'll also share and make available to you all if you want to learn more about what kind of programs are currently available to people who are incarcerated inside New York State. But when we talk about education for justice involved individuals, we are talking about people that are currently incarcerated and people being released. And I think that one of the things that, you know, I'm hoping our panelists are going to touch on today is, while there's, you know, some really valuable opportunities for campuses to go inside and start programs, there is also really valuable needed work to do in our communities on our main campuses to support justice involved people returning to the community, and that there are unique needs of justice involved individuals that we should be sensitive to and making sure that our campuses are aware of. So without further ado, I really want to turn this over to, again, the people who love and live this work. You know, I have been in the field for 7 years. I have been running and administering and teaching in both men's and women's max and medium correctional facilities throughout the state. Every single person you're going to hear from today are, you know, people whose paths have crossed mine, and they have had a huge impact on me and my career. And I'm really excited for you to get to meet them. So without further ado, Moshe, are you still with us?
Yes, I am, Rachel.
All right. I'd love to pass it to you.
Thank you so much. I just actually should step back in. I appreciate it. Appreciate it so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moshe Canty. I am the CEO of Conscious Mind Ventures, LLC, as well as the Assistant Director for the Center for Community Alternatives, Youth Services Department in the New York City office. I am formerly incarcerated individual. I spent a total of 22 years incarcerated. I became involved with Hudson Link for Higher Education in Prison in the year 2018 while I was at Shawanga Correctional Facility. And it was through the help of individuals like Onaji Benjamin, Rachel Sander, Lee Crusetta, among other individuals who were a part of the Hudson Link family that helped with my introduction into the higher education community. But prior to that, I was someone who was a gang member. I was a former gang member in this case, but I was caught up in the lifestyle, the senselessness associated with the prison, environment, the mentality of perpetuating the ideology of foolishness, and I was caught up. However, when I got to Shawanga in 2016, I would like to say that a light clicked in my head. I saw a lot of my colleagues, individuals who at one time themselves were wilding out, getting into all type of stuff further up north. I saw these individuals enrolled in school. And for me, it was like mind blowing because these individuals, were not these type of individuals in the past, but their whole way, their demeanor, the way that they conduct themselves at Shawanga was different. And the mentality of these individuals was contagious. It impacted and affected the whole environment. And what I mean by that is that Shawanga was always known, excuse me, as a laid back facility. However, it became more laid back. The mentality was that if you come to Shawanga, you have an opportunity to further your education. You have an opportunity to transform yourselves from a criminal mentality into a more productive mentality, not only within the institution itself, but being able to make that transition back out to society if given that opportunity to do so. So I saw these individuals on a daily basis go to school, and I was looking at them and I wanted to emulate what they were doing. These individuals were very positive around me. They was talking about school. They was talking about critical thinking concepts that sparked my way of thinking. I was very, very intrigued. Thankfully, at the time, I was also going through my own personal transformation where the ignorance that I was basically perpetuating, I got tired of it, So it was a great seamless transition for me at a perfect time of my life to go to Shawanga and have the opportunity of getting exposed to Hudson Link. So, after a couple of years, I ended up enrolling through SUNY Ulster through their associate program. Thankfully, I was released last year on September 8th, but I was able to acquire a total of 46 credits. Once I was released with the help of Hudson Link, with the help of Rachel Sander, with the help of Kiki Dunstan and Lee Crusetta, among others, everybody that's associated with Hudson Link, I was then able to further my education beyond just the prison setting. And that experience was good for me. So what it did was it meant that now I had the help of individuals who knew my work ethic and was willing to render their assistance to me to help with me prolong and further my education beyond the prison experience. I was thankful for that. Early this year, I'm thankful to say that I graduated with high honors with an associate's in individual studies. And that was through the help of Hudson Link. And the reason why I think for me, it's important that I always speak about this is because where my head was at, although I can say that I was changing, if I had been sent into an environment in which it was more violence, where the ignorance was at a higher level, where education wasn't the primary factor, where the characters involved were more focused on something different, I probably would have gravitated more towards that. But being that I was involved in it, or I was exposed to an environment in which education was the primary factor, it gave me an opportunity to benefit from that. And I'm thankful for that. I have since graduating, I've since enrolled into NIAC, into their organizational management program. And I'm scheduled to, slated to graduate next year. So this is just a brief synopsis of who I am and how I was able to benefit from that. I know that there are my co-panelists who have to speak, but I just wanted to share this with everybody to just let everyone know the importance of what higher education has meant for me. Without it, I don't know where I've been. I may not have been released because with all the time that I've accumulated in terms of my disciplinary history, poor disciplinary history, they probably would have used that against me because I didn't have any leverage to basically go to them with. But being that I was able to use my school to say, listen, this is what I'm doing, this is what I intend to do, that they took that into consideration and they gave me my time back. And that's how I was able to basically get out of prison earlier than scheduled. So I'm thankful for my Hudson Link family and everything that they've done for me. And I look forward to continue to work with them. Thank you, Rachel. Thank everybody who's here for listening to me, for listening to all of us, because this is definitely a conversation that we need to continue to have. But thank you. With that, I turn it back over to Rachel.
Thanks, Moshe. We'll definitely come back to you and want to hear more. Amanda, would love to pass it to you.
Okay, hi. I'm wicked. I don't know why I'm wicked nervous. Okay. My name's Amanda. I came home last September, after doing a total of 14 years. Hold on, let me get my bearings. The value of college and prison has totally gave me a desire for a better quality of life. It gave me incentive while I was in there to be a role model, and it fed, unfortunately, I was a product of my environment. The drug world was glamorized, so that's all I knew was like selling drugs. I never pushed myself in education. In school, I was like a C student because I never tried. And then while incarcerated, I was just so desperate for a better quality of life that I just like veered towards education. And while doing so, I seen like, wow, I'm actually really smart, and I have like all A's and A pluses. And the feedback from the professors in there are, well, you're incarcerated, it's just you're kind of in a really dark spot, even though you try to like practice, positivity and make the best of the situation. You still carry like this void, this hole in you the whole time, because you're just like on autopilot. You can't even cry. You have to like, okay, it's shower time, so I can go cry. But when you have these professors come in and they give you this feedback, they like instill this sense of worth in you, like, okay, I'm not just an inmate. And as I said, it gives you incentive, because not all the correction officers or correctional staff are gung-ho with inmates receiving free education, because they're working doubles and they're struggling to put their 3 children through college, so they don't feel that all inmates are deserving. So then you kind of have more incentive to like prove these people wrong. Like, I'm not just an inmate, I'm an educated, strong woman. And all the individuals, I share this often, all the individuals that I had experienced the college system with, going through schooling and classes with, like, everybody came home and they're all doing positive community things. I'm at Anchor Recovery Center. I do a lot of outreach with the addiction community. But I mean, just it's amazing how Hudson Link has empowered these women to go home, and they all have like businesses and they're CEOs and they're like founders, and it's just like amazing. And then to have like to come home and then have Hudson Link and Rachel, and they're like, oh hey, do you want to do a panel, because I think what you have is worth hearing, when usually like I'm accustomed to being silent, because who wants to hear what I have to say. But I don't know, I think that's it. And another thing, SUNY colleges, definitely, I struggled coming home because I had went through Marymount, and I can't realistically financially afford to go to a private college. And the SUNY colleges are everywhere, so I just think it's so like vital and important to the higher education and the prison system, as Rachel shared, because not everybody's from downstate. These people, a lot of people are from these little towns that I never even heard of. And guess what? Everyone has a SUNY college nearby. So I definitely think that's very important. And with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you so much for sharing that. You did great. You're so great. You always are. And I always want to hear what you have to say. And we'll come back to you guys. Lisa Jean, would you like to hop in?
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join you all. And thanks, Moshe and Amanda, for being here, and Rachel for organizing, and the other panelists. I feel really lucky and fortunate to be here. My name is Lisa Jean Moore, and I'm a professor at Purchase College and the SUNY system. And I'm also, for the past 5 years, I've been working in a program that sort of loans me out from Purchase to Marymount to teach at Bedford Hills. And I've probably taught at this point 20 or maybe 15 classes there at this point. And I've benefited enormously from that experience. The reason I think maybe I was asked to be on this panel is because I'm a real advocate for pedagogy for all New Yorkers and developing pedagogy that provides cross-pollination, both for me as the faculty member, as well as my students in any setting that they're in. And I will say that my students that are enrolled in the Marymount program at Bedford Hills, my students at Purchase College, and then the students I work through linkages with courses at Marymount, all benefit from also being in contact with one another through programs that create pen pal relationships or have them go over the same kind of course assignments together and communicate with one another. I'll also say that my own teaching has been reinvigorated by being in at Bedford with the students that I'm there. As sociology lends itself incredibly well to people who have lived in adverse situations of stratification, and also with such an eagerness to learn and such a desire to challenge traditional conceptions of higher education. And it provides me the capacity to continue to grow as an educator in ways I didn't think possible. I mean, I feel incredibly fortunate to be able to teach at Bedford Hills. I feel like I'm getting far more out of the experience than any of my students could ever get, because my life has been enriched by being there. And I'm going to start crying, my professional development as a sociologist, as a thinker, as a citizen, as a human being has expanded in ways I didn't think was possible. And I think if the state of New York, or if SUNY has this mission that it's claiming to have about educating all New Yorkers to be 21st century advocates, educators, workers, laborers, it really must produce better linkages for people who are incarcerated and people who are released who need to continue their education. And we need to consider these pathways as enrichments for everyone. And I really want to shy away from the fact that there's any sense of me doing any kind of charity work, because for me, I've been the most enriched by the experience. I feel like I've benefited in ways that, again, it's hard for me to even articulate. And I really feel like I was kind of down in the dumps 5 or 6 years ago in my teaching in a rut. And this has opened me up to new ways of transmitting material and listening and hearing students. That's produced a real bounty. So I'm happy and eager to answer any questions, but I'm also really eager to hear what other people have to say. And, you know, you can always reach out to me at Purchase if you're ever considering doing this kind of work, because I'm really happy to mentor any faculty member that wants to start to try and incorporate this way of teaching into their lives. So I'll kick it back to you, Rachel. And again, I'm really grateful to be here.
Thanks so much, Lisa Jean. Randy, do you want to hop in?
Sure, thanks. What I'm going to say will echo in some ways much of what Lisa Jean said. I feel very much the same way. I kind of like to address what individuals can do when you don't have the institutional support that you might like to get involved in this sort of program. I'm really impressed that Purchase has a program that allows faculty to be affiliated with other institutions so they can participate in teaching at facilities like Bedford Hills. I began teaching in a prison while still on the faculty at the University at Albany. And I did so because of my belief that public educators have a responsibility to teach all members of the public, and a particular responsibility to those who have been disenfranchised for one reason or another. Since UAlbany doesn't partner with any docs facility, ideally more SUNY campuses will, and I'm encouraged, Rachel, by what you say that more are pursuing that as a possibility, I would say as a responsibility. But there are many things that individuals can do. They can, I became an adjunct while still a tenured faculty member at Albany at several other institutions, so I could teach at Green Correctional Facility, which is just a little south of Albany. One of my colleagues developed an Inside Out course that would enable our students to be in a classroom with Green Correctional students. He, on his own initiative, sought out funding from the UAlbany administration, who committed to provide transportation for our students at Albany and books for the students at Green Correctional. Another way in which we were able to do something was the faculty and graduate students in my own department, the English department, volunteer their time to staff a writing center at Green Correctional. One of the problems is that, unlike traditional campuses, our students in our incarcerated students don't have any time to meet with faculty. The schedules are very regimented and structured. So we were able to work within the prison schedule to create a slot where graduate students, faculty would be there to work with students in their coursework or whatever other projects they might have going on. So there are ways that you as individuals and administrators can begin to make your campus and your students aware of the benefits. And I completely echo what Lisa Jean was saying. Those benefits are manifold and many of them are to us. So for faculty in general, you'll have a chance to work with students like Moshe and Amanda, who are testified incredibly articulately about the impact that these programs have upon their lives, and how many students who never thought of them as students or as college students become quite successful. For me in particular, it provided me a renewed sense of purpose and meaning in a profession that I had dedicated my entire life to up to that point. It also gave me a challenge to adapt pedagogical strategies, develop new methods for students who have none of the resources that we take for granted. They don't have well-stocked libraries. They don't have access to the internet. Sometimes that can be a blessing, but oftentimes it's not. So this was quite literally the first time I've had many cash-strapped administrators come to me in my capacity as a department chair or as an individual faculty member and say, well, consider this as an opportunity, not a problem. And I can say that this is the first time that I felt that this was an opportunity and not a problem as a teacher. Our traditional students, for example, in an inside out program or even remote or in-person learning, have a chance for an experience perhaps not as transformative as that Moshe and Amanda referred to, but will certainly have the chance to impact them significantly and perhaps for the rest of their lives. And for non-traditional students, you've heard that already. So, I'll leave it at that. But as Lisa Jean said, I'm happy to, field inquiries from individuals, and I hope to continue this work both in the classroom and then with efforts of the folks here, Rachel and SUNY administration in general, to make this a very worthwhile project and effort grow and be sustained. So thank you, Rachel, for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Andy. Robin, would you like to chime in here?
Gotcha. I'm here. Finding that unmute button was a little bit of a challenge. So I'm Robin Riker, and I was asked to sort of be here in my capacity as an administrator of 2 programs in 2 different facilities, and sort of how we have strived and made it an area of importance to build relationships with the facility and the staff on behalf of our faculty and our students. First and foremost, we refer to everyone we serve at these 2 campuses as students, just like we would as any other student on our main campus. And in fact, these 2 facilities are referred to as campuses. They just happen to be in different locations. And everybody on campus knows and understands that. And so we approach the students there with that attitude. We approach the staff there with that attitude, and the facility administration. And so one of the first things we did was I tried to maintain a physical presence. That is not possible for a lot of administrators, but with the support of my institution, they find value in that as well. And so not only do I administer the program, I teach in the program. And I'm there at least 3 times a year. I am part of a team that does all of the intake, all of the applications, all of the orientation that our students go through, just like a student would go through orientation on our main campus. And we sort of function as professionals in that capacity. I also serve in the role of a key volunteer, which is a docs role, and help not only recruit faculty to our program. And Randall, to your point, we use full-time faculty here on campus, and we use faculty from neighboring institutions and bring them in as adjuncts sort of into the fold. And so we were always recruiting. And so the idea is that, we enter and we treat the facility as a campus. And then another thing, to Amanda's point, when she talked about, some officers or staff sort of looking askew. I'm not going to say, anything beyond that, or, having a strong opinion about offering free education to students at our alternative locations. We developed a model where we extended our funding model to both the corrections officers and staff at each of these facilities, so that they also had access and opportunity to advance their own learning lives and academic degrees. Key also was that we acquired space at one of our facilities to have those officers and staff take classes right there, either before or after shift. And that, again, was supported by the administration of the facility, who saw value, right? They saw value in bringing an educational institution who was ready to open the doors to every human working and being in that space. And so that's just, two things that we do that has had a tremendous impact. And then I think I want to speak to one more thing, and that is the collaboration we have entered into with SUNY administration. I cannot tell you the amount of support we have had from folks like Rachel, folks like Tom, Phil, from SUNY admin, just to help us navigate these sometimes interesting waters, right? Truly, every facility is different, but there are also commonalities. And Docs is also a huge player in what we can and can't do. And so having an administrative team dedicated to helping us help others has been truly a godsend. So I think, Rachel, with that, I'd love to leave it open for questions from the folks here.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Robin. And I hope you all can hear the passion and dedication of all our panelists today, and why I love working with them so much. And so please feel free to use the chat or raise hand feature to ask a question. In the meantime, while folks maybe be gathering those questions, I would just love for Moshe and Amanda, either of you maybe, to speak just quickly about maybe some of your reentry challenges, or of colleagues of yours reentry challenges. And, please don't hold back. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted you both here was to tell us how to do better. And so I feel like that's something we could all hear is, what do you think SUNY should do better? What do you think we could do better as educators, administrators, faculty to support you? Amanda, I saw you unmuted and I'm excited.
Okay. So I was just thinking, the problem I've had, I have an education, I have a degree, I have all these great certifications and certificates, but I struggle with social biasness here. Unfortunately, I relocated back home, and it's a small place, and I have a reputation of selling. I'm sorry, the cat has something metal under the table. So I struggle with social biasness, and I think maybe that could be like you know how we have like non-credited courses, you know, that are all like for, or maybe it could just be part of the reentry. Is yeah, they help with like your resume and everything, but nobody ever said, oh, hey, be prepared that somebody is going to judge you or your application is going to be overlooked because of who you are. Because I've struggled. I put in applications. I know that I was better qualified than people, and that really like hurt my self-esteem, you know? Because yeah, SUNY thinks I'm, you know, the college education thinks I'm great, but what about the community I go back to? You know what I mean? They don't. I'm still, it don't matter that I did 14 years in prison, because all they remember is the things that I've done that led me to that, you know? So it's, every accomplishment that I've made, I have this shame that I feel, you know, and it's messed up because I should feel good. It should be empowering and encourage me to keep moving forward. But, you know, unfortunately it's the negativity and the stigma, you know, that, has to be broken through. So, yep, that's it. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for being honest and sharing that. It's vulnerable. Moshe, you want to chime in?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for that, Amanda, and thank you for your question, Rachel. So I think for me, the first challenge was before I even made the transition back out to society. And what I mean is that, so while I do credit Hudson Link for all of the great things that they've done in terms of helping us get the tools that we needed to empower us, I think structurally and administratively there was some deficiencies in the area of, for instance, preparing, let's say, for instance, to file FAFSA forms and things of that nature. Thankfully, I had my wife to assist me, who fortunately for us, she already went down this path. But without having her there, I didn't have a basic understanding of how that process operated, how it functioned. So I didn't have anybody on the Hudson Link staff assisting me with what that process would look like, so that when I got to that point of filling out these forms, I knew exactly what I needed to do step by step by step by step. So that was a challenge before I even stepped out the door. When I did finally get out the door and I began to, I told myself that I finally wanted to go back to school. It wasn't because it took me too long to actually do so in fall of 2020. So what I did was I enrolled in spring 2021. So what happened was I noticed that in the process of me filling out some of the paperwork, so to speak, I know all of this is online, there was not room for allowing us to have our own identity. So you may have, so for instance, in slots that may have said, are you a returning student from SUNY Ulster? So in this case, I have 46 credits, although to Robin's point, they try to make their environments have that campus type feel. I'm not suggesting that at Shawanda that wasn't the case, but when I got back to society, I realized that, you know, reality hit me square in my face. It was like, no, you were in prison, and this now is an academic institution in which you're gonna have to answer this question, because there's no way for you to answer it any way other than the fact that while you are a returning student, you now have to explain somewhat that you are formerly incarcerated. So I had to get on the phone and I had to have that discussion with individuals that I don't think anybody else would have had, right? And what I mean is that if someone, let's say for instance, was a freshman at SUNY Ulster Community College, and they were returning to SUNY Ulster Community College as a sophomore, they would just simply say that they're returning, and that would be the end of that. For me, I'm returning, but there was some hurdles I had to overcome. I had to get in contact with a few people. I had to reach out to people, and I had to try to help make this process that much more easier for me. So there was some loopholes, there was some challenges, and it made me feel a little uncomfortable for a minute, because I was like, I don't think I need to be telling nobody. I got 46 credits. I have a 3.9 GPA. And I felt really good about myself. I felt really, really good that I didn't need to explain anything to anybody. But it really hurt me you felt it. Like, why do we feel like there's no space for individuals who are returning to society, but who have taken advantage of higher education while they were incarcerated, and who want to continue to further their education beyond release. So I think that for me, that definitely, those were two things that stuck out to me the most. And if I would advise, anyone moving forward, I think that there needs to be a robust system in place to help protect the individuals who are soon to be released. At the very least, having a system in place that allows for the dissemination of information to help with the preparation of financial aid. On the outside now, changing the mentality or the culture of embracing those who are formerly incarcerated and want to further their education. So again, thank you for the question, Rachel.
Thanks, Moshe. Robin, there's been some questions about student services and program design. Would you like to field those?
Yeah, really quickly, good questions. Student services is definitely a challenge for us. And I know Randall spoke to the setting up of a writing center. We took a little bit of a different approach, and we were lucky enough to be able to graduate students quite quickly within the first year and a half of us taking over a program. And what we did was we pulled our graduates who were still at the facility back into the program, and they set up sort of peer tutoring, if you will, sort of peer help, because they had already been through the program and hold a degree from Herkimer. And they also help us prepare our incoming or would-be incoming applicants for the placement test, especially the math placement test that they have to take. And so we sort of kind of turn student services back into more of a peer-mediated sort of model. In addition, while our students are on our alternative campus, I serve as their faculty advisor. And so I do have advising sessions with them 3 times a year at all of our intake sessions. It takes a long time. It takes me about 3 hours at the facility on those days. But again, it's time well spent. And then once students transition from that campus, we invite them back to our main campus by giving them a different faculty advisor, one who teaches on the inside and is teaches for us here on our main campus. And so she understands both worlds as much as she possibly can, and she helps folks like Moshe with all of those very specific questions. You know, how do I fill out the forms that I need to? How do I register, right, on my own? Because generally when folks are on our alternative campuses or our additional campuses, I do that for them. And that speaks a little bit to the confidentiality question that Amy raised. So what we do is we have developed our paper FERPA forms, and you all know what FERPA is. And during orientation, we explain students' rights. And so we share with them that they can provide waivers, and we encourage them to. And so they provide a waiver for me to be able to talk to the education supervisor at that facility, and our financial aid office, and any other office here on campus that I need to go to in order to mediate any kind of issues or situations that arise, including the filing of the FAFSAs for students to go on. And so that's how we sort of handle that little bit of a situation. And finally, the institution made a decision early on that the college in prison program would be housed in the Division of Humanities and Social Sciences, which is where I am the academic dean of record here at the college. And so that, I believe, is really sort of an institution-based decision about where this program is going to live and who is the best advocate on campus for these students.
Thank you so much, Robin. I've been trying to answer a few questions in the chat here. And I just want to point out, one of the things that I've mentioned in here is, our team, SUNY's Higher Education for the Justice Involved team, is really eager to think about what resources and what our campuses are already doing well that we can extend and make available inside the prison. And there are these logistical challenges that we do have to navigate. But we're really, again, eager to think about what we can do collaboratively together to reach more of our students inside and bridge these two worlds. I see a hand. Ronnie, do you want to ask a question?
Sure, no, I was just reading the information in the chat. And so one of the things is looking at this from a more holistic approach, a more care coordinated approach. So as folks get into the programs that they're in, also looking at it from the family structure too. So those folks who are in prison at the time, what their family structure looks like. Is there someone in their family who has college age, who might need to be prepped for college? If they're looking for career advancement, career training, things like that. So looking at it from a more holistic approach. So when that person does come out, the structure around them is much stronger than just them coming out, having their degree, having to go to. So you're looking at it from a different standpoint. So those are, as you was talking about, Rachel, some of those other programs that we could connect together to make the link much stronger, make the chain much stronger. And so those are some of the things we probably could sort of look at in terms of how we could help not just the person that is in, but their family structure outside, as somebody had mentioned in the chat.
That's a great point. I'm curious if anyone on the panel wants to respond. I can just share from my experience in working with so many students coming home. The family impact, the family involvement is sometimes the number one indicator of a successful reentry. Moshe mentioned the support of his wife, who was able to help walk him through. She was familiar with higher educational systems and navigating the admissions process. And that was such a blessing and gift, to be able to have that type of support in the home, hands-on. And I hate to say it, but, Moshe is in the minority of the students I've worked with, and being able to have that type of level of support and engagement. I also, though, want to say, one of the values of doing these programs is of course, seeing the generational impact as well. Even before people come home, when you go to these graduation ceremonies, and I hope we get a bunch more this spring, you'll meet people's children who, for the first time maybe are seeing them in this really positive light. I can remember meeting a little girl being like, when I grow up, I want to be just like my mom. I want to graduate college, and I can remember some of the women inside the prisons. I remember one woman, she had me print out, her son went to Fordham University, and she had me print out the Fordham University orientation schedule. And she would call him, it was orientation week, and she'd be like, why aren't you at this mixer? You know what I mean? And he would be like, what do you mean, Ma? And she was like, come on, you got to go meet people. It's the new student orientation or something. But it was this whole new connection for parent and child to be able to talk about higher education, to talk about college. And so many of these relationships get strained during incarceration, and education can really be a unifier. So I really appreciate you, Ronnie, thinking about the big picture here and how we think about families and their roles and involvement. There's a question here in the chat from Taryn about the institutional challenges or limitations or needs for more support. And I'm curious, Lisa Jean or Randy or Robin, you guys have spoken to some of these maybe, but if you have any other sort of specifics, where are the limitations? Where are the challenges? What do you guys need? I asked Moshe and Amanda what they need. What do you guys need?
I think that for me, the hardest, or the thing that consistently comes up, is getting materials through docs that I might need to teach, and trying to figure out what is going to trigger. Like, it sometimes feels very arbitrary, and I'm not here to bash docs. That's not my job, but I feel that maybe there would be better communication to say that this is not a challenging text in the way that maybe you think, or to at least have a rationale as to like why some of the materials I'm trying to use in my classroom, that for me is a real limitation. I've figured out creative and crafty ways to get around that. I mean, which makes me a little nervous, and that's just in this cone of silence with everybody on this call. But I feel that for me that's very challenging, because I do have things that I think people deserve to have access to, deserve to know. Anything about Black Lives Matter, for instance. I mean, it's really a bummer, and it really limits the ability to do certain things.
Yeah, I would say that's, from my perspective, that's really true. And again, with the idea of addressing an audience that might be interested in how to do this and should I do it, one of the things to be prepared for is you do have many obstacles and not a whole lot of support for overcoming them. You know, the employees at the facilities are overworked. It's a very hard job. They may see education as not very high on their list of priorities. And they have lots of concerns that we might not think about, say, for example, as a teacher interested in academic freedom, and so the prison will say, you know, you have to get approval for every thing that you teach. Well, that's hard to do in a timely fashion, and so on. Or if you're part of a, you want to offer a course, but your institution says, well, we need you here on campus. We can't afford this. There need to be advocates, both, and Lisa Jean says she's not here to bash anybody, but both docs and SUNY can do a lot more practically to support the individuals who want to make, and I completely agree with Robin and the philosophy of these. This is a campus. These are our students. They're no different from our other students. Now, we know that circumstances won't be the same, but a lot more can be done to make them equal. And it takes a commitment. I mean, the universities or the community colleges need to make the effort that Herkimer and Robin are making to say, yeah, we're going to make our faculty available to you. We're going to make it worthwhile for them. Yeah, they've got 5 courses. Well, we'll put a little extra into a research pod or a travel pod, or we'll give you release time. Evidently, that's true at Purchase, which is fantastic. But the institutions have to make the effort and the commitment, and there's a lot of room for improvement.
Thanks, Randy. I want to also just share, you know, in my overview, I did not share that Pell Funding has recently become available, will soon become available again for incarcerated individuals. The 1994 crime bill made it so that incarcerated individuals were not eligible for Pell. And so this was a real issue in terms of how SUNY was able to provide programming with the absence of public funding. We have seen an experimental return of Pell in something called Second Chance Pell, and now full Pell restoration will be coming back in 2023, which is really exciting and a game changer in a way that will be able to hopefully serve more students. There are, of course, students who don't qualify for Pell, who are incarcerated, who still would like an opportunity to pursue an education. And so that's something that I definitely think that we can work on and think of, is if we're really about second chances here and educating a vulnerable population that's been disenfranchised, that might mean creating scholarship opportunities for students inside who don't meet public funding requirements. Additionally, there has been no TAP funding yet announced that will be available. So I'm posting a link here to the Turn on the Tap campaign for those who are interested in that, because we know for many of our SUNY schools, it's Pell and TAP that make it an affordable option for our students. And we certainly wouldn't want anyone incarcerated to pay. There's no way, right, for them to pay or take out loans to attend a SUNY institution while they're incarcerated, and it really wouldn't be advisable upon release, just because of how much catching up formerly incarcerated people have to do when they first come home. So thinking about funding options for students, obviously, it's a complicated issue, but definitely something worth exploring and thinking about on your campus too, if there's opportunities or existing kind of scholarship opportunities that just formerly incarcerated students might qualify for or benefit from. So curious if there's any sort of last words or thoughts or final questions here. Moshe, did you come off mute? I love giving you a last word.
Yeah, no, I just was curious to know whether or not there were ever any educational hub pilot programs proposed to docs. And what I mean by that is, because a lot of times, when we go on drafts, we're sent from one jail to another. It can be either for a preference transfer, it can be for disciplinary reasons, but it's never for an educational transfer. Very rare do you hear that happening on that level. And I was curious to know whether or not perhaps a pilot, an idea for a pilot, a hub could actually exist. There'd be a particular a set of facilities that are specifically geared towards, to Robin's point again, the campus. Like this would be, this paradigm in which those who are incarcerated would strive to get to, because this would ultimately, help in terms of changing the narrative that this place is used to house prisoners, so to speak. But no, these facilities are more or less used to house individuals who are, focused on furthering their education and it taking them somewhere else. I was just curious to know that.
That's a great point, Moshe, and I think also a great one to end on. So Moshe is referring to the movement of incarcerated people in between correctional facilities. There are only 3 prisons for women in New York State, but there are 47 for men. And as you can imagine, they're moved around quite a bit. And so one of the things that we've been concerned about is that there's continuity of educational services when someone is transferred, and how we can build a system of support throughout the state so that anywhere you go, you're guaranteed to be able to continue your education. And that seems like something that SUNY should be well qualified to do. And again, of course, we're working across 21 prisons now, and that is awesome, but there are a lot of limitations, I think, in terms of space, funding, size of programs, staffing capacity. Our campuses are doing amazing with what they have, but our campuses are really differently resourced. And I think one of our team's goals is to really think about how we can build, a stronger system that could ensure, Moshe, your story about how you started, it was sort of the luck of the draw that a program came to Shawangunk. You waited 17, 18 years to go to college. I remember when we started that program and SUNY Ulster was like, let's see how many people pass the entrance exam. And I said to the college, you have men have been waiting decades to go to college. And there was over 100 people who passed that entrance exam. There was a waiting list, to get into the first cohort. So really, we need to do better as a system. And again, I really believe we're qualified to do this as SUNY. We have players in place. We need to make it happen. So on that note, I'm just so grateful for everyone to come out and listen today to our presenters, and, our presenters for being so open and honest and vulnerable, and, sharing your stories, your lives, your passion for this work. Really, really proud to be part of the SUNY community, and thank you all so much. Chris, I look forward to future DEI virtual discussions with this crew.
Yes, thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Moisha, Amanda, Robin, Lisa, Jean, and Randy. That was really fantastic. I had a billion questions too, but I'm sure others do. I'm going to put in the chat again, my email. If anybody's interested in being part of our planning team for the DEI discussion forum, please send me an email. We had a few people I had to leave for various reasons, and so we could use a few more people on that planning team. Rachel's going to leave us shortly for a little while. She's expecting, and so so we're going to be down even one more person. So please send me an email. And again, this was a great topic. Thank you all so much for presenting today, everyone. And And I'm going to stop the recording. We will share the recording in Workplace, and you can find it there.
Thank you, everyone.